be hard to
Good.
go your entire life.
With a good cook.
I had a good,
I never received,
good
it
guy
must be
lined
Gary's
up
side of the family. I
out
never,
of,
none of my kids
came out
have.
of New
Yeah.
Jersey
Eat everything,
somewhere.
they,
Because he's
Barbecue
right on the
guy.
no
back.
allergies,
Craig
except for maybe a little
Smokehouse.
sneezy during,
Didn't
you know,
miss
like
the
the.
back.
Looking at
the
there
hours
or
or
up
something.
at the old
Okay, this is at
wishing
25
well.
But I think
degrees and
everybody,
the garage
no
is
matter
at
He had an
30.
interesting
what, it's out here,
concept.
because it's so bad.
A place where truck drivers could radio in what they want and drive in and get it, because there's 130 trucks a day make that run out of Drake.
You can expand it to win.
School Board Association.
That's the front entry.
They had their-
Okay, are we about ready? Are you two lovebirds about ready?
No, we're not, just a minute.
Okay, let the games begin.
But you can see that here. But you're really waiting on me? You're a
Of course I'm
sweetheart
waiting.
kind of a guy. You know? I don't care what Mike Best says.
He's waiting for the
I don't
clock
care
to
what Mike
fall.
says either. I don't care what you say either.
But you can see
My space clock says it's 6 o'clock.
That's wondering.
Everybody ready? Corey, you ready?
I'm ready.
Lon, you ready?
So I gotta wake up from my nap now?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I'm ready.
Everybody else, ready, ready, ready?
I think we're.
Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call?
Councilmember Kelly.
Present?
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Councilmember Perkins. Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Vice Mayor Miller.
Here.
Mayor Croft.
Here. Okay, this is a study session tonight. We're gonna discuss. The first item number 2 is review and discussion regarding draft text amending the Town of Chino Valley Unified Development Ordinance by amending section 3 by adding subsection 3.19 BP Business Park Zoning District. Mr. Lerma.
Mayor and Council, good evening. This is an item that went before Council last week. Per your request, we brought it back as a study session item. We're not gonna go really into detail about it, but more try to answer a lot of the issues and concerns that council members brought up last week. So, one of the issues or concerns that the council brought last week was the type of impact that this proposed business park zoning districts would have on adjacent properties. And here's just a bullet point list of the development standards proposed for the business park. As you can see, is that the business park is not only exclusive for Old Home Manor, but other property owners that want to rezone the property to this business park will have the option to do that. If that's the case, it'll come before council, and on a case-to-case basis, council will look at it and either approve it or deny it. But here are some of the development standards that set this zoning district apart from the other zoning districts that we have. Obviously, every zoning district has its own development standards, but these development standards are unique to this zoning district. And one of the top one again is that the business park needs to be at least 20 acres in size. If it's one parcel or if it's several parcels combined. Setbacks, number 2, all buildings will need to be set back from all perimeter or property lines. They're gonna have to be further pushed back than the other zoning districts, commercial or industrial, that we have. We're gonna allow business buildings to go higher than 35 feet if that's what they request, and that will be approved through a conditional use permit, and that'll go again before planning and zoning and council, and depending on the way council sees the impact of these buildings, they'll either deny it or approve it. These business parks will require to have fencing around it, and we're not approving chain link fence, but the design standards are a little bit more of an upgrade. And there will also, besides the development standards within the landscaping section of the UDO, there will need to have additional landscaping. So again, based on building setbacks being further inside the parcel, fencing, and additional landscaping as the way that these business parks are gonna greatly decrease their impact on adjacent properties. Here's
Before we go any further, let me, you have no idea what we're concerned about. I'm not concerned about any of this stuff. I want to walk through this policy and see if we can, if everybody agrees what's in the policy.
Right.
Otherwise, so I can bring it back to council. And then we can cover this stuff, but I don't know where that even connects. The first part was the purpose. The purpose was a question from Corey and other folks. Do you want to talk about the purpose?
Okay. They're actually going more in the direction of what I think I asked.
Okay.
And that is, I look at,
Well,
let's,
let's look at purpose.
let's go a couple more pages here,
Okay.
if you wouldn't mind.
Right, and we'll get to that point about the purpose of the business park. This was one of the issues that Mrs. Perkins or Councilmember Perkins brought up. So again, these are several issues were brought up, and we're trying to touch base on each one individually.
Is that where everybody wants to go?
Sure.
Well,
Okay,
that's fine
let's
with
go.
me. Just one question I had was, would you rather get to a certain point, Alex, and then say, okay, you have questions instead of us asking questions as you go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so. I mean, I have probably 4 slides.
Okay.
It's not gonna be a long presentation.
Good number, 4 slides is perfect.
Probably,
Plus
I
or
lied,
minus.
probably 6.
Oh, come on.
We can't, I thought I counted 6 on that page.
I like 8 better.
Yeah, this is something that we brought up during the presentation last week. This is a decibels table or sound level table that we originally had within the draft version of the BP zoning district, with a section dedicated to noise within the performance standards. Basically stating that all uses within this BP business park or within the BP business park cannot increase 65 decibels. So we included this table on the side, just indicating, examples of uses and the decibels that they use within these uses. And obviously, as stated here in the slide, this was removed per request of legal counsel. And the reason why is because there's a section within our town code that, that basically states that all commercial and industrial uses are exempt from the noise ordinance that we have. So the goal is to, once this section of the town code is modified, is to bring it back and try to amend the BP zoning district if it is adopted by council. So just a review, the draft version obviously was created by staff. It went through the steering committee, and per comments by steering committee during the meetings that we had and through email, going back and forth, we amended the draft. It went before planning and zoning, and planning and zoning had these recommendations. They wanted the veterinary clinic and animal hospitals to be removed from the permitted uses, or have it, as a permitted use, but also have it as a conditional use with outside usage. They also wanted commercial outdoor kennels removed from prohibited uses and added to conditional use. When it went before council, it seems like they liked more of staff's draft, but what they did want is commercial greenhouses and accessory uses, including on-site sales, to be removed from permitted uses and added to conditional use permits. So staff did a little bit, some research during the week to see other municipalities within the state that have similar zoning districts as the one we're trying to propose, what their goals were or what the purpose of these zoning districts were. Now keep in mind that these other municipalities do have commercial zoning districts and industrial zoning districts. So apart from those, Town of Gilbert has a business park, and you can see the purpose of their business park is to, the purpose of the district is to permit integrated campus-style office development services, high technology, research and development, office services, light industrial uses. City of Surprise also has a similar zoning district. the purpose of their zoning district is to provide for economical development opportunities for providing high-quality business and distribution sites for research laboratories, offices, commerce, and attractive campus-style settings with good access to major roads, as well as availability to public water and sewer. Other two examples that I have is City of Peoria, that has the Business Park Industrial District. But even though it's more of an industrial, the title or the zoning district is industrial, it focuses more on commercial purposes. It says is intended to accommodate for development of office park, support retail services, warehouses, and certain light industrial uses in the comprehensive plan in attractive settings. And lastly, the City of Avondale has a commerce park, and basically it's the same purposes. A lot of what these districts focus on is more of accommodating employment and providing other types of uses that are more intense in nature as far as commercial. We're talking about more of a large scale. We're not talking about one building, but several buildings. So while doing our research, we thought it was a good idea to give an example of another municipality that was in the same shoes that we were. And the one we were able to bring up was City of Maricopa. City of Maricopa, as us, has as the town of Chino Valley, has property that they own, and they want to attract businesses to said property. Unlike City of Maricopa, they only have 50 acres. We have 200 acres that we're focusing on. But their goals are basically the same. They want to provide employment opportunities to local residents and attract businesses to the area. So again, the project includes 50 acres. Development is done through a public-private partnership, and there's 3 types of options that are provided within their what's called the Gin Business Park. Their 160 acres are allocated to office usage, 182,000 are allocated to flex manufacturing, and 80,000 are warehouse distribution. As you can see here, office space obviously is located within the pink, flex manufacturing is the purple, and then warehouse distribution is the gray. And then this is currently the fire station. So,
Okay. Did you have something to start, or should I go?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. First of all, the height of the building's 35 foot, and then you'd have to have a CUP to go higher. My understanding of a CUP is usually limited to X amount of years. So you do a CUP for someone for 5 years, then they have to come in and re-up, and you may approve it or you may not. So how do you do that with building height?
Well, the CUPs, they go with the land, they don't go with the owners. And typically when you prescribe a year time frame that they come back, it isn't to deny them. The only reason you would pull a conditional use permit, in my opinion, is if they're not meeting the conditions that you have set for them in the past. And so when they come forward to renew that conditional use permit, it's basically for you to evaluate, have they been good? Have they been good there? Have they kept the conditions that you've attached? Have they maintained their landscaping? Have they been a good business in the community? And typically, if they're coming back to renew it, they usually have.
So that really, the building, then that's not applicable to the norm, to any of that. It is what it is. If you agree, then.
Well, the reason we would want them to do a conditional use permit if they're gonna go higher than that is because we can attach additional conditions on that application, which would encumber that property more than, say, somebody that came in with an office building that only went to 35 feet. So it gives the town greater, leverage on those businesses, those buildings. You can have them set back further. There's other conditions you can attach that you normally wouldn't be able to.
Okay. when I look at the other communities, and we're looking at what they're doing, this looks to me like more of what I had a vision of, and you tell me if maybe I'm not seeing everything here, but it's more, commercial aspect, warehouses, manufacturing, if it's dental and medical, it's research or things like that. It seems like in what we've got here, we've got a lot of foot traffic businesses, which I'm not seeing that in these.
Okay, if I may address that, I would agree with you that there are probably some uses in here that we could eliminate that do create that foot traffic that maybe we don't want in there. When I went through and I added in additional text and I re-looked at the uses, I did go back through some of these business park use zones in the different communities, and I added in different things like research and development, packaging companies, digital production.
If I can, let me, again, we're getting down into the weeds here. Can I step in at this
Sure.
point? This is exactly what I was asking for last week. This is what I wanted brought to us. These are definitions of a business park. These are just businesses. Let's go back to your very first slide. This doesn't resemble anything that the other towns and cities have. This purpose here, is, we're worrying about the height of buildings and fencing. Would you consider, let's say the people that did the Safeway property, would that be then a business park? I think it would be, where, yes, they have their core store of Safeway, but then they have the Chinese restaurant and the Domino's and the
Coffee
yada
shop.
yada. So you have multiple businesses within that business park. That's what I'm looking at a business park is.
Well, I wouldn't call Safeway a business park. Safeway's more like a commercial subdivision that has individual lots that are platted out. A business park, you're gonna have circulation streets throughout that. It's gonna be like a residential subdivision where you have your entrance, you have your gateway into the business park, you have your streets that go around, and the streets access into these individual parcels like that in
Okay.
image
Being
right there.
commercial real estate person
Yes.
my whole life, that is a perfect example of a business park
Where,
right there.
where is that?
Right there.
No.
No,
Thi-
no.
thi-
In our.
Yeah,
This is,
oh, it's
you
not-
wanna
this is,
clearly, he
this
wants a
is what
clearly
we were,
defined purpose.
this is what we were given to vote on the other
No.
night.
He wants a clearly
This
defined
does not
That's the
resemble
problem.
anything like that.
Yeah.
We
That's a
can
perfect
definitely
business park right
reword
there.
the purpose, and we can, I mean, we can work on this. It's
No,
not,
you see what I'm saying?
That's
You're
serious.
way, this is the big picture of what a business park is. Now, we can take it from different cities that fit our community best. And if we then want to, put restrictions on what type of businesses, would not be allowed in our business park, we can do that. But we've got to get to this point first.
well, in order to get to that point, you're gonna have to have something like that. And in fact, if you go to the Gilbert and the Peoria and those other business park districts, it's not just a purpose statement. It'll have the purpose statement for that district, just like every other district, but then you will have your permitted uses, your conditional uses, your prohibited uses, and then you'll have the design standards. And the design standards will include the landscaping requirements, and in those towns and communities, you'll also have four-sided architecture requirements.
So,
Let me take,
So-
I think what we're looking for is one of these up front to say what we want in there and where we're going with this. And then the other particulars describe those things that you want in. Where is that?
So you want us to reword the purpose statement, and I would
Is that what you
agree
want,
that this
Corey?
purpose statement is quite brevitus.
Yeah, it's vague.
quite
Yes.
what?
Brevitus, short.
That's short.
It's little bitty.
Why don't you just say short?
Brevitus is a funner word.
Funner is not a word.
It's longer.
Yes, I know.
Hey.
By design.
You know, and can I have a
Sure.
turn? Just like this tells us that we can only have, 8,000 square feet of warehouses and whatever, how it breaks it down. And I look at this list, and it says veterinary clinics and animal hospitals, but it's gotta be on 20 acres.
No, the entire business park, if somebody were to come in and say, I want to create a business park in your community, they have to amass a minimum of 20 acres. Now, that 20 acres is going to be split up into multiple parcels. One parcel might be 3 acres to accommodate a warehouse. Another parcel
I'm
might.
following you now.
Okay.
I got you.
Now,
That was a picture of
But
a
again,
20
your,
acre bet.
your,
No.
where was it? It could be 1 or 20. Where was your definition?
Very
again?
first.
Minimum
May
development.
be comprised of 1 or multiple lots.
That's correct. So
If it's 1, then that business is, we already have a zoning for whatever that 1 is. It's no longer a business park. It is a specific building if it is a 1. If they're looking at doing multiple, okay, now we're starting to again get out of from the commercial zoning limits that we already have in place to a commercial, to a business park. Okay, it's not a business park if there's just 1.
Right, but there are a list of uses here that are not found anywhere else in your code. So if they want to have that type of a business, then they have to create a business park even for that one use. And that one use would then be required to put in additional landscaping, perimeter the site, screen the use with a screen, and provide a facade on top of their their building to help.
So we're trying to create a business park model, but I think
For
what I'm
200
thinking of
acres.
is our business park now.
We have this that Frank gave to me. I can pass it around, or I can make copies. We have this as just an idea, but this is what it would kind of look like out there. Out there, we went and walked it. So at Rodeo and Jerome Junction, that's where the utilities are at. So we were talking about, let's look at doing either 1 or 2 spec buildings. Let's get a bid on it, because the young man that lives out there or works has a little company out there where he's on propane. I called him randomly one morning. He's like, you know what? I really want to expand my business. I can't do it using propane here. I might have to go to Prescott Valley. So if we did a shell building with high voltage electricity, he would move into that. So that's where it kind of organically starts to happen. You have to get a spec building out there, so you bring the whole thing to life, and then it kind of starts going from there.
Okay, I think we're not there yet.
Yeah,
Well, what I'm
back to-
saying is-
still
We're
at
not
the
there
basics.
yet.
But
Okay.
that's what
Okay,
this kind of
but
does.
we're not going to do just 1,
No.
you're looking at doing multiple, right?
Yeah, there would be multiple buildings out there.
That maybe.
Well, no, is,
Yeah.
is where the purpose is to have multiple buildings.
Can I
To
maybe-
cover
We're not
200
looking at
acres.
building just one single item. So we're looking at doing multiple business site, which would then be the business park.
Could I maybe
Yes.
jump in on that real quick and try to explain where from the town point of view it might be? As far as the lots go, I think the zoning district you're looking out there for the town business park, Old Home Manor in particular, would be composed of 5 lots that are 40 acres each. So you could have a zoning district for just one of those 40-acre lots that would have 10 different buildings on that one lot. So when you see the one lot, it could still be a park type setup with internal circulation and roads going in there like a campus type setup, but still fit within one lot if it's a big enough lot. So I think that's where the one lot in the zoning district comes in. And they could rent the space instead of selling individual lots like a subdivision. As I think maybe where that comes into
You
the
can see,
zoning.
yeah.
It doesn't reach where you want to go.
Well, I think that
They have little
you're,
parking lots. Usually they have
You're-
picnic tables.
yeah, you're throwing in
So it's
a
not one
hypothetical-
building, it's
Obviously,
one
it goes
lot,
into the business park.
is what I'm saying. You can have multiple buildings on the same lot.
is that one lot 20 acres?
It could be the ones out at Old Home
But
Manor.
it's within a business park now that could encompass 200 acres.
Or it could just be a 20-acre business park.
Okay. But
Or it could be one parcel.
you're encompassing an area that you plan on multiple businesses in there, that it can be from ever how small or to ever how large
Right.
that developer wants to design into his business park.
But it could still be on one parcel. That's the single on that, is the
Yes,
Okay.
we're saying the same thing.
same thing, okay. Okay, I just thought that you were saying it couldn't be just, that
But if
one
it-
is
if
just
it's-
a business,
If
but,
the guy has a 20-acre piece and he wants to put one business on there, that is a specific zoning, that's no longer a business park. It is an individual property.
but can you go back to
Now, if he
the-
has 60 acres and he wants to make 3 20s out of that, well, then that could possibly fall in a business park.
Right, but see, when it says may be comprised of one or more multiple lots, they could have multiple businesses on one lot in this zoning. And in commercial zoning, you can only have 2 structures, is that right?
Well, it becomes a commercial subdivision at that point, much
Oh,
like
okay.
Safeway.
But, okay.
I mean, Safeway's
Now,
been.
see, I really don't see the difference between why
That's what you're
Safeway,
saying.
what zoning would Safeway be then?
Commercial.
Well,
Or is it
zoning
just-
is,
it's a
Safeway's commercial, it would,
C1.
CL, it'd be light commercial, retail, all the uses in that also fall into the commercial light retail type uses. So, but you have a user who, let's say, wants to do digital production. Well, there's no other zone
Oh.
currently in your, in your.
Oh, yeah, I think that's crap. You could
How is
look
that
at,
crap?
you could look at you could fit that within, because again,
No,
you
you
even
have-
state that you can't list every business. But you couldn't find where what'd you just say, production, digital production,
You have,
for digital production, depending on what they're gonna be doing chemical wise, you could fit them somewhere within commercial light, commercial heavy.
with a stretch, I mean, I guess I could say, oh, okay, it might fall into, well, let's see here. In your commercial heavy, the list of uses you have is wholesale, manufacturing, bottling, warehouses, minimum storage, transfer, the sale of storage products such as firewood, stone products, and agricultural
So therefore,
commodities,
the only
welding
place,
shops.
if you had this business come into town, the only place you're gonna allow him to go is into a business park.
Well, right now, we've clearly defined that that's where that individual would need to go.
If we don't have a business park, if this guy come into town right now and said, this is what I do, what zoning do I need, I wanna move to your town, you would tell him, sorry, you can't do business here because we don't have a business park for you.
Well, no, I'd probably make an interpretation
Exactly.
somehow.
And that's why
That's
we're
exactly
here.
what I just,
But that's the thing. There are so many holes right now that I understand that that's part of my
So-
job to fix. But
again, you can't fit, you can't list every business there is. So that's where your discretion is used to fit them in.
The type or.
The business park
correct.
is just nothing more than an area that we're gonna fit a multiple amount of businesses within this box. And we're gonna have regulations that go within that box, whether it be a 20-acre or it be the 65-acre like the other town.
Or the
you know.
200 acres we
May
have.
I-
And that's what we need to start with, and then go from there, not jump to
I think that will
production.
organically grow as a commercial light area. For example, say I get Amazon packaging and I have 2 names to call those guys. Yeah, that's a stretch, but you never know. Okay, that's where that would go. You have several jobs that would bring to town. I don't see a barber shop going out there or Verizon Wireless, but I see more commercial light, larger 20,000 plus buildings. That's my vision. That's kind of what I think that'll grow. That's
Absolutely.
going to be the demand there. I thought maybe mixed use, but I just don't see retail's dying. I think I think what you're gonna find is, again, that young man that has a business out there that wants to expand. We keep him in Chino, we give him a nicer building, his production goes up, more employees.
So therefore, when that developer comes in and he says, I want to build a business park, I would like to utilize so many acres of your old home manor out there, and 20 acres, and he sees a need, like that guy right there, and then he's gonna say, okay, this
Is what I
business
need.
park is gonna be more of an industrial park, and of like businesses. Now, maybe there's another section that somebody wants to, encompass other.
Are you concerned from it going industrial to business park? Is that what you mean? Like you're thinking more,
No, I'm just saying that we're, it's multiple businesses within a business park, just like the description of these other cities did. Now, someone went to, as far as to really break it down, well, we want this here, and that's fine. But that's, we're not seeing those kind of parameters in this.
You're talking about wholesale, retail, no retail in there, is that what you're doing?
No, it could be that as well.
Anything.
Again, I would think that, again, the Safeway would encompass, would then, that type of development would now fit within a business park kind of format.
He's using Safeway as an example.
No,
I
Safeway
see it's
is-
like a strip mall, a flat mall.
That's a strip center.
Is what he's
Yeah, that's what
speaking
I'm
of.
talking about. I don't see a business park being a foot traffic
No, I agree.
area.
I agree.
You know, very minimal. In other words, you don't have, you know, grandma going in there to the pharmacy or getting a loaf of bread or getting her Chinese food and taking it home. You know, I see a business park as being a business. You know,
Manufacturing,
you got semis coming in and
shipping,
picking up
storage,
and unloading
handling.
and things like that.
Something,
But I
yes.
do,
Okay.
I do, that's the first time I saw something like that, the picture of the business park that you had, where, this I think is where Frank was going, they're taking that business park and they're saying, we're now going to say, this section is going to be
3 product types.
professional office space or
Mhm.
something. That section up there is gonna be where the warehouse stuff is gonna go, so that it's got some kind of a footprint. You know, everybody in that area is doing somewhat the same thing. And I mean, that brought some clarity to it for me, because when I saw this list, I'm looking at like piecemealing everything wherever it goes, and I can see where you don't have to do that. You can do like Frank says and say, okay, you take this 40 acres and this is gonna be this type of a business, you know, that we're gonna put here. But I don't think we've got the luxury of laying that out in totality, you know, now. Like she's saying, okay, we got this guy gonna come in here, so then when other businesses come in, as long as we have the infrastructure, maybe we separate them or put them, you know, in a different area.
With
But that's
regards
the
to,
creation of a business park,
have to start
is
somewhere.
doing that.
but before we can do that, we need the zoning. And then we can create an area plan or a strategic plan
Mhm.
with regard to Old Home Manor, where we do lay out the types of uses we want in certain areas and lay it out. But
That's
before
his
we do that,
methodology has to do first before we can do.
we
But
got,
this isn't just for Old Home Manor. We are creating a zoning district for the town.
that's correct.
So that somebody could come into any 20-acre
Open area,
plus,
yeah.
20-acre plus piece.
That's correct.
An example by the pot farm, right? The KOA.
Yeah, and could create their own business park, which I would promote a whole lot more than even the town getting involved. But we're doing this to hopefully jumpstart
Speed
the
up,
town.
yeah. Get the town going.
That's correct.
But we need to not just focus this for Old Home Manor, but this has got to be applied to
I would-
anybody that comes into Chino. Hey, we're looking to
Within our
develop a business park.
boundaries.
I would agree with you. I would totally agree with you. But once we get Old Home Manor designed through a strategic plan and we start laying that out, then we have a precedent now that when new developers come in, they want to put a business park in, we can say the conditions that are going to be attached to that rezone, because there is no business park zoning currently. So anyone that comes in is going to have to go through rezoning, which means you as a council will have the option to place requirements on that rezoning.
We actually have a place that's advertising that it's a business park for sale right now,
The ag land.
down at the north end. The old Performance Accessories.
Well, if the individual
Oh, yeah.
who goes to buy that, if they do their due diligence, they will find out that that is not correct.
That is not a business park.
And I would hope that the future owner of that property would do his due diligence, or her due diligence, I apologize, but I can't force them to do their due diligence.
Mhm. Now, could that then be rezoned as a business park?
Not
If it has
necessarily.
because it doesn't have the acreage.
Well, no, we would look at the general plan, and the general plan language probably needs to change as well, because it's missing a lot of things as well. So, we would have to incorporate in there areas that we feel a business park should go.
Okay.
I mean, right now, it's kind of nebulously addressed.
Okay, then you can't present something to us that isn't ready.
I think this is ready. This gives us the tools that we need to create the strategic plan for Old Home Manor. It would set a precedent for us to require developers to develop future business parks to a certain standard. Is it perfect? I don't know a document that is perfect.
The problem is, it won't be passed unless it's accepted by the council, so that's what we're trying to do right
That's
here.
correct.
And you may think it is, but we may not, because
that-
we're
that's
dealing
true.
with the citizens, so what we need to do here today is make this acceptable for you and for the town council, so when we come back next time, we get.
I have heartburn personally with P and Z making a recommendation and then staff making a recommendation that's different. I think these subcommittees are there for a reason, and if there's turmoil between the two, then we either need to know why or it needs to be resolved.
I think staff made a recommendation first, and then it went to P and Z, and they added, so.
Whichever. It should come to us as one unit, not two different things that we have to pick. Because to me, we're slapping P and Z's in the face if we go with you, and if we go with them, we're slapping y'all in the face. Do you see my point?
I do.
Okay, then to bring this, I can say I would not vote for this, and I don't know how the rest of the council would. As far as giving direction, I wouldn't vote for this.
Okay, back to Jack. So
Yeah,
what do
you
you,
totally stepped on me.
so what do you do,
I thought you were done. So,
what's your fix to that then?
I don't know. Does P and Z need to be more better educated at what staff wants? Or vice versa? Is it a conflict on P and Z board itself that needs to be resolved? Worked out? I mean, I don't know. Because this is the second time we've come up with two different recommendations in the
What's
last
the
2 or 3
authority of
months.
P and Z's actual, they look at what's presented by staff, they review it, and they make a recommendation to the council. That's their job. So that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I
They
think-
made a recommendation to council that added those things.
But we
Now, then we make a decision who we want to go with.
So you're saying that P and Z does not need to support staff, or staff does not need to support P and Z?
I didn't say that. I just said that's the process.
The P and Z comes with the planning and zoning criteria, the parameters, and then these guys attempt to develop a plan to bring to us to get the use
No,
of
that's just
Old
bad.
Home Manor.
No,
Wasn't there
it's
one use
backwards.
that
You're
was a
backwards.
disagreement, which was
You're
outdoor
backwards.
kennel? It was only one, right?
Yeah,
Everything comes from staff originated.
there
I
was.
understand.
And then it goes to P and Z. P and Z makes their recommendation based on, we appointed the commissioners, and then then it comes to the council.
So if Roads and Streets says that stop signs should be red, would the council would say, no, they're gonna be purple?
Well, I
Or
like a
staff could.
polka dot, truthfully.
I'm just saying, that's what you're saying.
No,
Well,
what-
yeah, it's a stair step. I mean,
Yes.
you've got, staff comes in and says, this is what we would like to do, this is what we see as the answer to this. Planning and zoning says, well, okay, it looks all right, but we really don't like this and this. That's just the way it is. I don't see it as a slap in the face, it's just
Check and balance.
this was their
Yeah.
recommendation.
There you go.
And then it comes to council and we go from there.
Yep.
I never looked at it that way.
And when you're saying you wouldn't vote for this, I don't think we're done. I think that's why we're here talking about it. And I think that we have to let these people do their due diligence. They're the professionals that we've hired and we pay to do this job. And so I think we have to let them vet all this stuff. Obviously, I think everybody agrees that this isn't perfect.
Well, Josh just said that he finds this perfectly acceptable to vote on the way it is.
I think it meets the intent of a business park. But like I've said before, I mean, I can rework, and we can rework.
And I
it.
don't.
It's-
So what would you want reworked on this?
I want to see something that's more like these other towns have within their that is
So-
much more of an outline
Top
of
level.
what a business park is.
So are you
This is-
talking
this
more
is-
than, are you just talking the purpose statement?
Yes.
Or are you talking like everything? I
I'm
mean,
talking,
what-
I'm talking the purpose statement first. We need to know just what is a business park? What is our town's definition of it?
If you got a
Just
piece
like
of
they
paper
have.
like that looks like that with the current kind of thing on it, with all that, is that what you mean?
That's a next step. They've already gone past their,
Yes.
this is not their,
Statement.
Okay, but let me, just from what you said there, and tell me if I don't know, this is as much a question as a statement. These, what they've put in here, in each one of these, they are for a particular business park,
yes.
okay?
That's right.
A particular
This
business
is
park.
the town-owned business park.
Right,
Yeah.
Yes.
so.
Or city-owned.
So this, what they've put here, that's only for that business park. That doesn't necessarily mean it goes for every other one that
Correct.
somebody might build.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have a hard time, they are gonna have a hard time writing something like
No,
this that
back-
covers any business park that might
Back,
come into
back up
town.
back up the slide.
The purpose.
There. There's Avondale's, you
But-
know, Peoria's.
But
Right,
this
but those
isn't,
are, that's a particular business park.
no,
that isn't-
that,
No,
that's
that
too-
is, that's their general
that's,
city
that's the,
definition.
well, that's the general purpose statement within their district, but if you read further in that zoning district, you would get the permitted uses,
This whole
the
stuff.
conditional
Okay.
uses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everything else that we have already.
We've
So-
got
Purpose
we've got
statement
to
needs
start.
to be rewritten to identify our.
All right, so
I think that's just what they're looking for. They want it more clearly
you
defined.
want an expanded business park definition.
Yes.
Right.
That's the only thing, I mean,
At this point, the purpose is the.
okay, so.
Jack, do you have
Why don't you
anything
hand
else you
these
need
out?
for this policy?
I already
No?
have that right here.
Oh, you already have it?
It's in our
Lon,
packet.
Pardon?
are you happy with redoing the
Yeah,
purpose
it's in our
statement, or what
packet
else do
already.
you want?
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, that's good. I mean, if you
Yeah.
can do that and that gives
Sorry.
Corey some more clarity, you know,
If you read your
everybody can
packet,
see
there.
that.
If you don't read your packet.
agree
I
with that.
still
If you're not gonna
think,
read that today, you need.
Josh, do you feel like we need to go through these? Well,
Well, we printed, I didn't know if you would have paper copies of the packet, so we printed up copies of the permitted uses, conditional uses,
Yeah.
and the prohibited uses.
What do you got?
And we were just gonna ask if you wanted to do a quick exercise and go through, and if you see one you don't want, let's cross it out. If there's one you can think of that should be in a business park, well, let's add that in. I mean, we might as well edit.
yeah, no, I'm
Let's
good
take
at
a
it.
walk down through
Yeah.
here and look and see if you have heartburn with anything. So let's get it right.
I am more for saying what we don't
Okay,
want,
Perfect.
instead of trying to list everything that we do.
okay, let's go to
Well,
permitted.
the problem with that is most zoning ordinances, and it's shown in your other zoning ordinances,
Mhm.
when a zoning ordinance is written, anything written there is usually written as what is permissible when you're talking about uses and what is permissible with additional conditions. The prohibited uses, typically with a zoning ordinance, if it's not listed there, it's not permitted. So, I mean, we could get rid of the prohibited uses altogether, and if it's not listed in the permitted, you know, or the conditional uses, then it's just not
I see
permitted
these
at
as
all. I mean,
guidelines for staff or somebody that comes in, or a developer comes in. These are guidelines that they have to follow, based on the purpose.
Well, the zoning ordinance is a little bit more strict than that, because once you
That's fine.
entitle something, so if I came in and I wanted to develop something, and I had a use that was similar to an indoor commercial recreational establishment, then that use would be permitted outright. So at that point, we're talking about site plan review, and then the development standards that are with, right, once the business park's been established, obviously, but, so, once the business park is established, that list of permitted uses and conditional uses, I mean, those are property entitlements at that point. So, they're not totally a list of guidelines, they have a little bit more teeth than that,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
I understand what you.
Could I maybe give some examples of Peoria's business park? They've got a land use matrix attached to that. So golf courses are not permitted in their business park. But convention or exhibition centers are conditional uses. They've got other listing for restaurants, outdoor seating's a conditional use for restaurants within that zoning. So they've got, if you go further into past the business statements, for all their different zoning districts, they list all the uses, and business park industrial is just one zoning within, and it lists all those permitted uses and things like that.
Are we ready to walk through permitted uses, or are we still on this?
No, I'm okay.
Are we
with
ready to
that.
do that, everybody? Okay, let's walk through permitted. Is there anything under B, permitted uses, that you see as might possibly be a problem? So take a look at it. Number 4, business, trade, dancing. Is that dancing you're worried about?
All of it,
Art, museum?
except for the business.
Educational
Dancing,
facility.
art, music, and other similar educational facilities.
What's
Do we
wrong with
want that in the business park?
Well, it could be,
I guess it
And
could
it-
be separated,
Yeah.
right? Like that picture was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
you-
then I retract. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
retract.
it's going down. Anybody, anything else?
And see that, what you just said, that we need to keep that in mind,
Mhm.
that these businesses are within a business park setting.
So they can be separated in the
Yeah.
front and.
Because
I was just
you'll
thinking-
you'll quite often see big dance studios
Yeah.
within industrial areas.
I was just
I know
thinking
somebody
about
needs one right now.
a warehouse with a school right next door or something, you know, it's like, that don't
I mean, they
jive.
could
But
go,
if it was away from,
if it
would
was a
make more
dance
sense.
business, they could go into a warehouse.
Mhm.
That'd be
Yes.
an ideal place for
Yeah,
them.
see, and you don't
See
really
what
know
you
in
asked.
these dance and these art things, it's a block building, and they're in there doing their thing, and they've got parking, you know, and there's all you got's a little sign dance studio or whatever.
Okay, let's go on down the list.
Well, just a comment, and I said it before, so I'm gonna be a little bit more specific, but just like banks, here again, that's where I was going back to the foot traffic thing. But I feel a little more comfortable with that now because I see the idea that you can separate out. You know, and maybe there's a corner, there's 30 or 40 acres down here that's more of a foot traffic area than the warehouses that are on the backside of it or something, so.
Now,
Right.
quite often within these business parks, you may have, Sam's Subs,
Yeah,
to where you actually allow a sandwich shop within here.
Oftentimes that happens because the most typical business park up there is that last one where it has 3 different uses that you're allowed. That's a very, very typical business park, and that drives enough, a little bit of a mixed use where you'll have a demand for a little restaurant that's open until 2 o'clock.
Yes.
Very typical.
So don't want to get too restrictive within this, because to me, the whole thing is any single business could fit individually within its own zoning classification that we already have.
and then
The
under
part about this park is because it's the multiple, you could have multiple zoning, if they were to be independent, they could be of different zoning classifications if
That-
they were individuals. But when you put them into a business park,
Yes, correct.
No, it's a different animal.
now it's a different animal.
Right.
It's, and that's that was the whole thing for me. I'm learning that here, that when I first looked at it, I was really confused. And so now, I'm only 50% confused. I'm getting better.
That's baby steps then, right.
Okay, further on, permitted uses.
I think it's, I'm okay.
Call center.
That's like
Number 11, commercial greenhouses.
Well, I think we were talking about that. I think
Yeah.
that that's and I'm good with taking that, just like how you
Completely
described
out?
it. Yeah, just how you described it, and just take it completely out of there.
Okay,
Which one?
11,
The commercial greenhouses.
so don't move that to conditional uses, which was kind of discussed.
Well, the attorney, did he not say that you pretty much,
Then it has to come before you to approve it though, so that's why
Yeah,
they're
but-
putting it there.
But I thought he said there was something like Perkins she wanted to say,
She wanted to add marijuana as a prohibited use.
right,
completely.
marijuana is prohibited use. I believe the attorney said, well, you're asking for it if you allow a greenhouse, but then if pot becomes legal, you say, well, we just aren't gonna allow marijuana. I think he said we'd be better off if you just say, no greenhouses, then you're okay.
You can go that route, or you can attach that as a condition of the conditional use permit that they would have to come back and ask for.
I think of a commercial greenhouse as something that is just gonna take a whole lot of space.
Yeah,
And
and a
what
lot of
should
water.
be some, pretty high rent per square foot type
Everybody kind of agree to take that
of a
out?
business.
I'm okay with it.
I would
Yeah.
just ask greenhouse.
Let's take it out.
I just don't see that in any
Okay.
In a campus type
business
setting.
parks.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
And
didn't
then
work
that
for
higher
me.
water
Not if they
use.
legalize it.
It is high, they are high water use, that's another.
Be recreation.
Okay, let's go on down.
It's a lot of tax money.
Jack was asking about 21, a call center.
I wasn't asking.
Oh. Place where everybody's got a phone.
I
in their
know,
cell.
I know what a
Oh,
call
okay.
center is.
Well, I
I
just,
said they ought to be outlawed.
Okay.
I
You just
crossed,
don't wanna
I
answer.
crossed 21 out because it's already in number 2. That's just,
Oh, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
it is, so you're doubling up.
Yeah, those are all broad now.
Okay,
Or you're-
That's Lonnie, that's.
okay, we ready to go on to conditional uses? Okay, conditional use permit.
I don't like conditional uses to begin with, and I know we've talked a little bit about that before. I really wanna see things fit within a zoning more than, again, making exceptions.
I know you've talked about that, but that was as zoning. And that, here again, remember, these are their own animal. So I think, I agree with this, the conditional use permits in this case, because you may have a 20-acre parcel that is next to something else, okay? Where one of these businesses may do fine out at Old Home Manor, but it may not be good on a 20-acre parcel that is gonna be 50 foot away from some residential. So that's why I'm, okay with that.
The thing I see missing here is apartments, motels, and hotels.
That's actually under the prohibited.
Are they
Number
prohibited?
19 just says residential uses.
You wanna allow it?
No, that's prohibited. That's
Hmm.
under prohibited.
You want it there? Why?
Do I not
Hotels.
have,
Well,
I
motel
gotta
would be
turn it
residential.
over.
Well, one of the other business parks had motels as a use.
It should be a use. Absolutely.
You think, what's that?
Motel should be a use for sure.
Because if you have industry, people coming and going.
Come and stand, yep,
The salesmen, the people, experts, the setup people, they
absolutely.
gotta sleep them somewhere. Imagine they gotta commute all the way to Prescott.
Well,
to
if
get
we
a
start
room.
having more events out there too, there's
That's-
gonna be a need for
Yeah.
more
Yep,
motel.
that's
The
why,
RV
that's
park
why I
out there.
asked, do we wanna,
We can add that in.
Okay?
so
You
we've got
could
a
add
place
that
to
in as
stay
a
when you come to visit.
Conditional.
Add it in as conditional like the convention centers. 'cause
Yes,
they kinda go together.
like the convention centers.
Okay.
So now that we're,
Just if I, oh, sorry.
Jack brought this up a little bit ago and,
Is he doing that
on the
again?
whole slap in the face thing, but where's everybody at with the veterinary clinic and commercial outdoor kennels?
I
Myself,
personally think the noise level's too high from those kind
And the stench and the dog.
and stink and the problem.
I think it
Liability.
should stay prohibited, personally.
now,
Liability.
Who's
you're the
recommended, is this
commercial girl,
staff's or is
so
this?
how do you
P&Z?
feel about that? What's your opinion?
That's staff's.
It's definitely not an outdoor kennel.
He just said staff.
That just would be stinky and noisy and just kind of takes away from everything we're trying to do out there.
Okay, I'm with you 100%. I think that's not a place for it, so I guess I would just assume put
So
those
number
in
8, we're taking out.
unpermitted,
Number 8 is,
or not un.
You mean 9?
where we at?
Commercial,
8 and 9
nine's
is
commercial
coming-
outdoor thing.
8 and 9.
Are coming off CUP?
Oh, I,
Okay.
Uh,
no, number 9 on
9
permitted
is-
is fine, cause it's enclosed,
Yes.
I just wanna
Where
make
are we
sure.
looking?
but I
Where
mean,
are you under
that's-
C?
We're on
I'm looking
conditional
at
uses.
He was
Under
under
conditional
We're on
use.
conditional uses.
Okay.
And
8
then you
and
have,
9's out.
8,
that's what I'm asking, is the veterinary clinic and animal hospital with outdoor area, is that what we're talking
You're
about?
talking about B, no, we were talking about the, on D, prohibited uses,
we're
the,
on C, we're not on
C.
D yet.
I know, but he was, okay.
So 8 and 9 get scratched, if
There's
that's
no
up to
9.
everybody.
Are
Because
we
it's
in agreement?
outdoor.
Yes.
Okay, but I'm asking, are you good with that? Or, I mean, does that make sense to you?
You guys have me lost, what one are you on, B or C?
On
Cause there's
C.
no, there's
C,
no
we're on
9.
C.
We're on C.
Okay, but there's no
8 and
9,
9.
there's an 8.
Oh,
There is
You-
on mine.
on mine,
Here's
there's,
on
no
mine.
line.
we have an 8 and 9 on
Commercial
ours.
kennels.
Okay, well, that got moved over to prohibited uses, you guys have an old copy.
It's your fault we have no copy.
It's impossible.
I think you have an old copy.
The new one.
Here, we got a new one.
We got
So we're scratching C9, commercial outdoor kennels are
Yeah,
prohibited.
definitely not an outdoor kennel. That
Yeah,
would just
8
be
and 9.
gross.
That's where, I think.
And 8,
Oh,
veterinary
staff
clinic
And,
and
and 8
hospitals
because of that.
Yeah.
with outside
P&Z
open
wanted
areas.
Yeah, you need a copy, cause that got moved to permitted.
You get a new, here, I'll give you.
Hey,
Yes, Alex just brought it
All
by.
Alex, what about me?
Who are you?
That way you can keep track.
Okay, so on the new copy, C8 got scratched.
Yeah, the new
Hang on, I
copy
ain't got my
is
new copy yet.
staff's recommendation. That was staff's recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, helps we're all on the
We
same
don't
set of
have-
paper.
Yeah. the
Like, going,
greenhouses.
but there's no
We got the
9.
same map.
That's why I
Oh,
brought
I
it.
got
All
yours.
right, and we took out the,
Okay, let's start over.
Now, is this, is this
The
P
one-
and Z's or staff's?
The one we just handed out is staff's recommendation. It was
Okay, the
P-
one I had was P and Z.
Yeah, the,
No.
where they included the outdoor kennels as part of, yeah, that was P and Z's.
Okay, I'm ready.
I like your style, Jack.
So now we're on D,
It-
right?
We're on D now, right? Prohibited uses?
okay.
That's what I want.
The other
I know, no more, no slaughter. You can feed them there, you just can't slaughter.
Okay.
Dirty energy.
Okay, so D,
Does that mean
D13,
bingo?
what's excessive?
Mhm.
I would. That's a good
Don't make
question.
me decide.
A bottle, well, like
I was
a,
gonna say
like
we
a
could let
microchip,
Mark
those
Holmes
use a
decide.
lot of water.
Let Mark Holmes determine what's excessive.
Yeah, I guess that would fall on me.
But what do they do with their water when they use it?
Yeah, what's excessive?
I think that question was actually asked in a meeting
This one?
not long ago, is what is,
I would imagine the greenhouses would be considered excessive.
Question.
Well, it depends on the greenhouse, because a lot of them
Of
do,
course, the manufacturing could be.
recycle.
I would take that out, honestly. It's 'cause
Chip
it's not there
manufacturers
again.
use a lot of water
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
for manufacturing. Then what happens to the water?
It can be reclaimed.
Yeah, it probably is reclaimed through the sewer.
Okay, well then, if you go back over here, it says,
Over where?
Yeah.
hang on, let me find it again.
On 13th.
It said
No
water
recharge.
usage that
Yeah,
do
but-
not
Excessive.
not,
have recharge back into the,
Yeah,
so
that's number
13,
13, D13.
so yeah, I guess, what's the,
D13,
and
Jack.
that's a large water user that does not recharge back into the aquifer. So any of these facilities are gonna be on sewer.
Well, the
Not
ones at Old,
necessarily.
yeah, the ones at Old Home Manor will,
Mm-hmm.
but if it's a private developer who's creating their own business park, that's not necessarily the case. So
They may
they're-
not have sewer access.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
But they're gonna need water.
Okay.
Through
do
wells.
we have to move the sewer plant?
Pardon me?
Do we have to move the sewer plant, Mayor?
Well, we can,
Because it's number 14.
there has been talk in the
it's
past
outside of
about
the
doing a
limits of the
mini,
zoning.
a mini sewer.
I'm just trying to stir the pot.
Yeah, I think
Mike will tell you
I'm
it's not
agreeing
dirty.
with you on 13. I see that as a wreck.
Like Bobby.
Yeah.
You know, do we have to have it in there?
Well, these are prohibited.
I know. But what I'm saying is, how are you gonna, in that situation, how are you gonna determine what excessive is?
I guess I would talk to
Legally,
Mark
we're-
Holm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be my department through
I
myself.
mean, my
and
dad
Mark
thought
Holmes.
excessive, you know, that verbiage from a child was excessive if you said why.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have to develop some sort of policy, and know what the intent of that is. That intent is trying to make sure within the AMA district that we achieve safe yield, and do our due diligence to preserve water, but
Maybe
I
you get a
understand your problem
definition
with,
from
the
state.
devil is in the details.
Oh, yeah.
How
So-
you get
so
there.
Maybe the
Could we-
definition from the state, what they consider
It's like, what is
excessive water
reasonable?
usage.
So,
Does the state have a definition for excessive water usage that you know of?
we'd have to bring that back to you, so we
Okay.
could
Just
maybe.
put it under conditional use?
No, these are prohibited, they're not even.
No, wait a minute, his
We don't want
question
to
was, can we put it?
Take
under
it out of prohibited.
How about we
And
do,
just within a conditional use would be high water usage businesses would then be under conditional uses, so then it's reviewed.
Well, I don't even think we want any business that's gonna use a lot of water that's not gonna recharge it into our aquifer regardless.
maybe I got a compromise for this. How about we come back as staff and provide you more details of what excessive is? If we can't define that, maybe we move that to conditional so that it's reviewed on a case-by-case basis.
But if
So
you
we'll
only-
do a little more homework on
That's what I
that.
was, yes.
If you only have 5 gallons of water, 1 gallon of water is excessive use.
So Public Works will do some homework on that one for you.
Okay.
Okay.
You didn't hear me.
5 gallons is excessive.
No, if you only have 5 gallons, 1 gallon of water is excessive use.
Right.
If you only have a canteen and 1 sip is.
Well, number 14, the same way, what's excessive particular and pollution?
Particulates?
Particulates emissions.
We'll
Dirty.
apply the same standard to that and come back to you with maybe a little better description.
Smoke.
Cause that one should be easy, because you can do that in, like a,
Parts per billion or something.
Mhm.
yeah.
And extremely
Similar to
noisy
air quality
industries.
issues.
And extremely noisy industries, I thought we already established a
We-
decibel level.
Yeah, we did.
That's the ultimate goal. We really can't put in noise requirements in this until the noise ordinance of the town code is changed.
I'm looking at that, it says 50, when you look at an aircraft carrier with an aircraft, that's.
That's 150.
That's about 1,050. If you're standing next to that thing,
We
it's.
don't even have a lake, how are we gonna get aircraft carrier?
Yeah, well,
Gets
Right.
mixed
if
up.
you're standing next to one of those on
California
the
Sullivan
deck,
Lake.
it's a heck of a lot higher than that.
Right.
I
So
can tell you.
the reason we had to take out the noise is because the town code includes that definition right there, which is very vague, and it would include every single
Oh, yeah,
commercial
we
or
need some
industrial
decibel
use.
level.
So we will adjust 15 also once this
Yeah,
is
15 also.
reconsidered?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just I won't.
Okay.
yeah. I mean, once we amend that, we can add the noise standards into this.
Okay. Yep.
I'm looking at 17 agriculture and farm uses. Is what there's a lot of stuff that agriculture covers. If it's a retail, if it's a business that actually wholesales out equipment, would that not be allowed in there? That's agriculture.
Well, the business, the equipment business side of it, I don't think would fall under agriculture per se.
That's turning
Okay.
dirt.
That would
Actually
fall,
turning dirt.
Warehousing.
Okay.
yeah, warehousing or,
Manufacturing.
You're just
Probably
basically
got a
talking about
definition for
farming.
agriculture.
Yeah,
And
you're
we've
talking
already
about
taken the
farming,
greenhouses
period.
out, so
Yes.
that makes it pretty simple.
yeah, I can see, there might be a definition in here for
Okay.
agriculture.
Good,
Don't we have to
Ag land
have-
is usually farmland.
yeah. I'm just
Why
being picky.
drive-throughs, what's,
Agriculture is the tilling of soil, raising of crops, horticulture,
That takes care of
viticulture,
it.
silviculture, including uses customarily incidental to, including the raising of animals. So,
That
Joe
takes care of
Blows Bistro that supports the industrial community. You don't want every teenager at noontime running through your industrial park to.
What's
go there.
drive-throughs?
That's what we're
I'm
just.
sure that was drive-through movie theaters and
Oh, those
No
are drive-
Jack
those
in
are
the Box.
drive-ins, that's right.
I was
Drive-throughs.
I was like,
You can
what?
drive
A drive-in
through,
would be
Barb.
really cool out there.
I don't know.
I thought you went there to drink beer.
Yes.
So this is drive-ins?
Drive-through.
Drive-through.
Oh,
No,
it's
no
drive-throughs, I
McDonald's,
missed
no Jack in the Box, no.
We're gonna scratch
Yeah,
18.
Miss Dreamy?
No.
We should scratch 18.
What are we doing with
Residential
18?
use
Scratch?
storage.
No.
Do we not have to add warehouses, or greenhouses, excuse me? Did
Yeah.
we ignore them, or do away with them over there?
We can add them into the prohibited uses.
Isn't that
If
what
they're
we
not
said?
included anywhere else.
I
then-
wouldn't do that. I don't know what this is.
It looks like, what's the difference between agriculture and greenhouses?
That's a good question.
It is none there.
Tilling of the soil, I would think.
You gotta till soil in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
Hydroponics.
Smaller,
Growing.
smaller fields.
Little
Pot.
Pots.
I
You
wouldn't
gotta
take it
start
out.
with something. I don't know. I'm just asking questions. We took it off of prohibited, or permitted uses. Wouldn't it go into non-permitted if we took it off of
We
permitted?
can throw it in there if you'd like.
Oh, I
I'm
was
just
just trying to
asking
answer
questions.
what was the difference between agriculture and greenhouses.
We passed that along.
Okay.
Are we gonna allow McDonald's, say McDonald's wants to come in among all these?
No.
That's where
Not gonna happen?
drive-throughs.
No drive-throughs, period?
No, that's
I mean,
drive-ins.
No, it's drive-throughs.
It is drive-through?
Drive-through.
A drive-in movie theater would be neat out there. But not,
Yeah,
So
not a
what is a
drive-through.
drive-through then?
McDonald's,
Fast
Jack
food
in
McDonald's,
the
Jack in the
Box.
Box.
Or it could be
Sonic,
Walgreens
any place you
also.
can drive.
So
these
can
days.
Jack in the Box be out there if they don't have a drive-through?
Well, that would go under the conditional
Restaurants.
uses, restaurants and
Restaurants.
eateries.
And
I thought
eateries.
that, wouldn't that go under small-scale food prep?
No,
No.
small scale
Well-
food pro would be like a sandwich place where you don't necessarily have a
I'm
20
assuming
foot
the
grill.
issue here is
Oh, we're
traffic.
getting favoritism going on. I see no Jack in the Box.
Straight up definitions.
You could have a fun guy.
Roberto's Burritos is okay.
Baristas,
Yeah.
Okay.
coffee
Are we
shop.
happy with
Okay,
this?
so let's go back to the residential.
Oh, let's don't.
So you were talking about a motel or hotel,
Yeah, and he put that over to conditional use.
okay, conditional use?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can throw that in there.
And that wouldn't be residential anyways. It's
Okay.
not the same thing.
You're
Neither
right.
would, yeah, neither would multifamily.
Okay,
So that is
Multifamily would
the,
be residential.
what's the title? Is that residential then for a motel?
No.
Hotels, motels would not, but multifamily would.
Multifamily residential, yeah, MFR.
So what are we
but-
adding into CUP or conditional?
Hotel.
Hotels, motels into CUP underneath the convention
You don't
center.
wanna, they're-
Now, what's the difference?
Well, hotel, you access the rooms from the inside, motels on the outside.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. Motels let them backwards.
okay. Are we finished with prohibited uses?
I hope so.
Let's go on to E, property development standards. I'm not sure I understand everything about this, but
This is what he covered in that very first slide, basically.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
this is all great stuff.
Yeah.
Makes it look nice.
Any questions?
Nope.
No.
F, parking standards.
It's just based on the uses outlined in the parking.
Yeah. And performance standards. Get the smell test and
Internal minimum front yard building setback is 50 feet.
Yes.
So the internal street system, they'll have to set off at least 50 feet off of the internal street system. There's also an exterior perimeter landscaping requirement for the entire business park as well.
okay.
Is there a definition of what it's measured from?
In the middle of the street, isn't it?
From the
I understand the external, but I don't understand the internal.
Internal will be, for instance, if your building is right here, abutting the street, that'd be an internal setback. Boundary setback would be from the property lines.
Where is it?
Oh, okay, see,
Each building, it needs to, you gotta be a minimum setback from anything, 50 feet.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a more of a conforming business park. That's the way that the look of a business park is. The buildings aren't right up against the street. You gotta have landscaping and curb appeal.
That way we can change the code later. and put it back on.
Is that it?
Is that because the first name is Jack? Is that why?
History
Jack
needs
Or does it matter? Property line, then do you have to follow?
No meat in there.
I'm still hung up on that minimum setback. I don't know, from what? Minimum
From the
setback
property
from
lines,
what?
property lines.
There is no property lines, it's one complete property. So how do
It'll
you
be
have
plotted.
minimal-
Well, I mean, not necessarily. Some of them will be one complete property line, but they'll have an internal circulation system, so they're gonna have to be set back from the internal circulation system.
So that's what it's.
I mean, we can-
Setback from what?
The roads.
That road.
Those are roads.
Okay.
Using that as an
Could that,
example.
can
He's gonna go
the,
up and show you.
can the parking lot go between the road and the building?
Yeah,
Yes.
those are building setbacks.
Yeah,
So the
just
buildings have to
building.
be set back.
And is that from the curb or the center?
It's usually the curb or the edge
Okay.
of right of way, which is
Okay.
beyond the curb.
But there's no, it's established that there's no right of way because it is all one
Game.
20 acre or larger property.
Well, there can be, right, I mean, if they plat it out and they create individual lots that they wanna sell off within that business park area, then there would be an internal
They
right
wanna
of way.
do what now?
Okay, so,
Subdivide the 20 acres.
so the business park is,
No. Go ahead.
all right, Old Home Manor, we're not gonna sell it off. Okay, so, but you have to provide other developers the option of selling individual portion, buildings and lots within that business park off if that's their business model. It's not necessarily always one lot. That's,
It's just once it's established.
Once
when
it's
When
established-
it's being created, it's gotta be at least a 20 acre.
right, that 20 acres will be considered, or 20 plus acres will be
20
considered
plus.
a business park. And they will all, regardless of how many pieces they split that off into, the entire business park is gonna have conditions attached to it that have to be maintained.
Okay.
So you could have a commercial subdivision
Do-
that falls within business park zoning.
Do we have, or are there standards for lot sizes at that point within these?
Well, the lot
Or is
sizes
that
would
on
be,
down the roadways?
well, they're not gonna create a lot that's not gonna work for their business plan. So they might split that 20 acres into 4 lots to accommodate office structures or warehouses or whatever. But that entire 20 acres is gonna have these development standards that they'll have to comply with.
So the guy that has the little sandwich shop, he could actually own a,
He would lease a
900
space from
square
whoever
foot.
developed it more
The
than likely.
the restaurant is probably gonna more like lease the space than buy an individual little pad. But technically, they could have a little pad in there if.
Well, what could come up too, like getting back to Amazon, I don't know that they need 20 acres if they're gonna do a packaging facility, if you're any sort of packaging facility. So in that case, you would have a smaller business park. So how small, you know?
Well, the business park's gonna be minimum 20 acres.
So,
How they divide that up is gonna be up to the developer and their market study and how, and what the market wants to bring to that business park.
that's true.
So the developer that goes in to build a business park is gonna, they have to have the users on the hook already, which will give us an idea of water usage, size of buildings that they're gonna wanna put up. I mean, a lot of that's gonna be handled by the developer before they even come to the town.
And then an internal, and then if they put a street through it like that, then from the curb to the building is a 50-foot,
is no less than 50 foot.
right?
No less than 50 foot between buildings, whether
100
there's a
foot
road there or
between buildings.
not.
Well, the building
That's kind of
code.
what I'm seeing there anyway.
Right, there, I mean, we can put that stipulation in there if you want. The building code typically handles the minimum distance between buildings.
Okay, but is that now, because of a business park, we're no longer going under the typical,
Well, the building code applies to all buildings that are ever constructed in your town that require a building permit. and there's very few. I think if it's under 200 square feet, it doesn't require a building permit. So, I mean, anything over 200 square feet is gonna require a building permit, and the building code is gonna handle the distances between those buildings. And fire code will come into play and things like that.
Okay.
So the actual interior design of where those buildings are located.
So there's enough standards already in place that we don't have to create?
I wouldn't
Gotcha.
advise
Okay.
going there, because the
Okay.
building code will handle that.
Okay.
So, any other comments, questions, concerns?
No,
As we beat this to death?
I think we did a good job.
Are we good? 6-foot screening fence on the outdoor storage? Are we good with?
That's one thing that I was gonna bring up. Should we take, when I first started reading this, it said that we had to have walls, and nothing was to go above, be stacked above that wall. I'm wondering if we shouldn't put that as a CUP?
You mean outdoor storage?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could move that too.
And the reason I say that, I'm gonna take, I don't know how many of you are familiar, but you take somebody like Dana Kempner Company behind the airport. They're a irrigation, a waterworks supply store. You go up, they've got a really nice building, landscape, the whole 9 yards, but behind there, they've got a fairly good-sized yard where they store C900 and fire hydrants and, just all kinds of stuff. And they've got big metal racks that they stack a lot of this stuff on for their wholesale sales. And I think that we need, if it's in the right place, we need to allow that.
Okay. We can add outdoor storage to
I think
the
that's a good idea, I agree.
conditional.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause that'll allow a little
At
bit
one
more
time,
flexibility on what I can
we talked
find.
about if it was something that was used outside, it could be stored outside. If it was something that was to be used inside, stored
But that was like the
inside.
trailer sales?
It had to do with trailer
They're
sales.
selling-
We had, the discussion came from the feed place down here, just what can they have out and what needs to be
But that was
indoor.
I think that was a
And
little
I'm-
different. That was product for sale, where these are gonna be wholesale yards.
Yes.
And I'm just saying that it may not work, if you had something, here again, close to residential or something like that. But if you're back off the beaten path and somebody wants to put where they store a lot of construction materials and things like that, we're gonna have to allow them to, at least a CUP, take a look at it. Hey, does it fit here? Is it hurting anything? Okay, then let them do it.
I totally agree, that makes it a lot easier to find some sort of manufacturing or something which wouldn't hurt to be out there. Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
Now, is screened fencing acceptable?
No.
No. Well, not in the business park. They said no
Business
chain
park
link.
does need to be.
CMU block.
Which most
or-
business parks I see are not chain link.
No,
No.
that's not screening.
that's not what we wanna go with.
Different than our normal commercial.
Yes.
One more time around. Anything else?
So moved.
Okay, so you're gonna rework the
We will,
purpose and you have your guys, okay.
yep,
And how about firing that purpose out to all of us before
we can certainly do that.
that way we take a look at it. We wanna get it done, and so we don't,
Yep.
okay. Any other questions about this?
Bigger and better.
Take care of my family, I'm gonna be here
There's-
for this part.
Thanks for coming.
Well, Corey's talking
Yeah.
for a minute before you guys leave.
Oh, I was just gonna move back.
Okay. I was just on the fence, and depending on your manufacturer, everybody got a container truck. I'm gonna be taller than most of your fences. Is that okay to bring my container in, either to go ahead and load, or is it gonna be a problem?
You'd have to if you have like a roll-up store situation. It wouldn't be a permanent staying there, would it?
Oh, no,
I don't
no.
know.
It's
No.
just,
So what do you think?
Most of them are supposed to be temporary anyway.
Yeah.
okay,
They're not structures.
no,
They're just,
How about shipping containers?
that's what I'm talking about, container
yeah,
truck.
shipping container, Connex boxes.
Most of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're not temporary.
structures.
Yeah.
But they are supposed to be temporary.
Yeah, they're supposed to be, so that's
I
gonna
think that's one
be.
of those case-by-case things again, if it's in a certain area.
Okay.
it's a little residential.
Anything else?
Or
Not
not.
that that's language in there about it.
Okay,
You gotta-
you wanna take a break real quick, or?
No, let's get done.
My kidneys are old, so I'm gonna take a break.
Mayor,
Jack, if you wanna continue, go right ahead.
I will. Go ahead, Frank.
mayor said to wait.
I don't care what the mayor said. Go, Frank.
Good night, everybody, I have to go home.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good
Have a
night.
good evening.
Okay,
The mayor's gonna take a break, I don't care what you guys.
you want us to keep
Thank you.
going?
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, why not?
In the interest of brevity for the item that's after this one, Joe, are you good if I asked if we just continue that to the next meeting? So,
What's after?
The engineering standards, what we do.
engineering standards, we can just do that next month.
See, we're having to put that off, Jack, because you talk too much.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, you guys would just yell at me anyway if I keep you here too long, so.
You haven't seen yelling yet, but.
So let me
Get out of that.
get out of that and, so you good enough? to
Mayor,
look at that?
council,
Is that the
That's the
PDF?
Tim,
I told her to PowerPoint.
Tim Warren has been working with me and Frank for about the last year and a half proposing this idea. And we've been batting it around.
We're still waiting for the mayor to come back on.
No,
No, he said go ahead.
Oh, I got an introduction.
So, okay.
You want me to try? And then you fill in the gaps?
I can fill in the gaps. That'll be fun. This is Tim.
Is this
Hi,
Jack?
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
Hi, Jack.
Yeah, this is Tim Warren with Enterprise Fleet Management. Yeah, like Joe said, we've been looking at this since last September
It's been a while.
is when we've been seriously looking at this, pretty intently at times. So where that comes from is that we started looking at some of our fleet. We've got, I think, 3 vehicles out of 28 or so vehicles that are less than 10 years old. So we're looking at an aging fleet with increasing service costs. And we're trying to always innovate and figure out the best use for the town's money with the least amount of output. We looked towards some other agencies, and Tim can talk about this, that we've got Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Sedona, Eloy, and some others have already gone to this sort of system. Things we looked at that you're going to maybe see is a lower cost of ownership per year using this program, based off of what we're doing now, up to maybe $1,000 a vehicle or more. So, and also from end of Public Works, we've got 2 mechanics and Kenny running fleets. So when we deal with the titles and the MVD and trying to auction and sell equipment, it's a combination of finance and fleets and Public Works doing that. And this would help alleviate some of that staff time, so you don't need to hire anybody else. It's already taken care of. And it allows for maybe upgrading the fleet a little bit to have little newer vehicles, more fuel efficient, more environmentally friendly, if that's what you think, lower emissions, that sort of thing. And a big point, from my point of view, is fleet manager, is or Public Works director, is safer vehicles that have some of the newer, more modern safety features in them that provides for the staff running around, and also the public that they might be running into or hopefully avoiding a collision with. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim. He's done this a lot, so I told him just to kind of do his thing, and
Does Tim know the rule?
4 slides.
I apologize.
No,
I brought
don't
more than 4,
apologize.
but I'll only go through 4 of them, and we'll just.
Okay, that's right, just 4.
So
I
he's
just have one thing I'd like you to go back to, the first thing you said. The lower cost of ownership
per year.
per year.
And do you address that a little bit in here to
Yeah,
kind
well-
of explain it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Okay.
talk about.
That can be slide 3.
It has to do with buying the vehicle and then the money you get back when you sell it, the salvage value, including all those numbers into the cost of ownership.
And
So so the leasing is a lower amount of money than owning by $1,000 a year, is that what you're saying?
For what we're doing right now.
Okay.
I think so, because we're
I was-
holding on to the vehicles until they're not worth anything. And he'll
Yeah.
kind of explain some of that.
They're worn out.
Yeah, I'll address all those questions. It's a different philosophy, so you know, and it's something that we do in our business that you know, we're bringing to local government. We work with businesses all across the state, so I'll definitely address that. I guess just from an introduction standpoint, Tim Warren, I've been with Enterprise for just over 10 years. Born and raised here in Arizona. Lived in Phoenix, Tucson. Spent a lot of time up in Prescott as a kid. My parents live there now. But what I've been doing for the 10 years I've been at Enterprise is working with businesses, local governments, and helping to go through that exploratory process, initializing you know, the partnership and developing a plan. Because what we do with everybody is a little bit different. It's not a cookie cutter. Obviously, you know, Frank and you know, Chino Valley have a maintenance department. They've got a fleet of vehicles. You've got systems in place. We're not looking to completely reinvent what you're doing, but we're looking to utilize our expertise and help you fine-tune and look for ways to save money in the future. From a just kind of high-level agenda, I'm going to just hit a few high points on Enterprise, who we are. Everybody knows us as the rental car company, but not the fleet management company. And then I'll dive into some of the specifics. And if you've got questions, I would just ask you to kind of hold them to the end. I'm going to try to get through this in about 10 minutes or less, and then we can get to the meat of the discussion.
Yeah, and
All right?
I'll just add, don't get hung up on my words, because I always say it the wrong way. So listen to Tim, and he'll probably explain it in a way that makes more sense. I sometimes stick my foot in my mouth pretty easily, so.
So Enterprise, we're a privately held company. You know, everybody thinks of that rental car company, but we were actually started as a leasing company back in 1957 by Jack Taylor. He was a World War II vet, and renamed the company after the Enterprise, the USS Enterprise, which he flew off of during World War II. So we were talking about, I heard you talking about aircraft carriers a little bit ago. There you go.
USS Enterprise.
He was on there, so.
Yeah.
So pretty cool, you know, great company to work for. Third generation of family ownership or family leadership is taking the helm right now. Jack's son, Andy, kind of grew the rental car business to what it is today, and then his daughter, Chrissy, is president of our rental operations now. One of the founding values that Jack put in place back in 1957 was giving back to the communities that we work in and we live in. And so this is just some of the highlights I like to point out. You know, 50 million tree pledge back at our 50th anniversary in 2007. We've planted 13 million trees through the end of 2018. And at our 60th anniversary, we gave, they pledged to give $60 million to food banks across the United States. And every year, Enterprise does a drive for the United Way. And I'm proud to contribute and give back to my community through that opportunity. And Enterprise matches our contributions that we give as employees. So Frank alluded to it. You know, we've been meeting since August, September. I think we dove into the meat of it, or you know, got pretty intense in September. Going through the analysis, looking at the fleet, looking at the different options. We had meetings with Joe. We met with the police chief, and what we ended up kind of focusing in on was just the public works or the general fleet vehicles to start. And there were 27 vehicles in that realm. At that time, there were 96% of those vehicles were over 10 years of age. I know you've added a few vehicles since we started meeting, maybe. So that's improved a little bit, but the fleet generally, from a non-police perspective, was pretty old. And you know what we know with the data that we've collected on about 2 million vehicles within our fleet, is that older vehicles have higher maintenance expenses, higher fuel costs, less safety features, and the downtime becomes a big issue. And so what I brought to the table was some different ideas on how to look at the fleet differently than what the town had been doing in the past. Previously, vehicle replacements are really budget driven, right? You've got budget dollars this year, let's buy a vehicle. And there wasn't a lot of analysis or strategy on when is the right time to actually get out of these vehicles when you haven't had a lot of the higher maintenance expenses. They're still worth a really good amount of money in the marketplace, and you're not experiencing that higher occurrence of downtime. So what we did is, and what we're doing across the board with some of the clients that Frank mentioned, is we're utilizing, first off, an open-ended lease funding mechanism to help stretch budget dollars to be able to replace more vehicles with the same amount of money that you have today. So for every vehicle you purchase, you could lease 5 vehicles on average. The benefits are you get into a cycle of getting newer vehicles with the best technology, so higher fuel economy. The average fuel economy increase on a vehicle from 2007 versus today is about 25%, according to AAA and Edmunds. Pickup trucks specifically get great fuel economy compared to what they were getting back in 2000, 2005, 2007. Some of them are upwards of mid 20s to high 20s for Ford F-150s when you get all the turbocharged and fuel 10-speed transmissions and everything. So a lot of advancements within just the auto industry that you get to take advantage of. And then you just get safer, more reliable vehicles on the roads, and it allows you to be more strategic with your replacements and not locking all that money in the glove box of a vehicle. So here's the high level strategy. So the 3 main buckets that go into vehicle ownership are depreciation is essentially lost value. Okay, so you buy a new vehicle, you lose most of the value in the first couple years, and then it starts to lose value at a slower rate. Maintenance, very early on when it's new, you're just doing that normal routine maintenance. It's under warranty, you've got kind of the honeymoon period, and fuel economy is best when the vehicle is within the early part of its life, and then over time you start to lose a mile or 2 a gallon over time. Right now, Chino Valley is essentially out here with higher maintenance costs, higher fuel costs, and the vehicles are not worth a whole lot. And so what we're talking about is taking the money you're spending on maintenance and fuel and shifting that expense towards the acquisition of newer vehicles more often, and moving towards that ideal
You're
time.
talking about time. What if you have a vehicle you've had 10 years and still low mileage? Does that play into it somewhere?
It does. The vehicles lose value, number one, based on mileage. So the higher the mileage, the lower the value. But there is a breaking point in the resale life of that vehicle based on the years, how old it is. If you can kind of think about it as if you go down to a dealership and you're looking at used vehicles, you're typically not seeing 10-year-old vehicles at the dealership, the local dealership. Those vehicles are generally about 2 to 6 years old for the most part. Then there's a big drop off in value in that 4 to 7 year range. So from a high level philosophy standpoint, we're talking about switching the philosophy from buying a vehicle and holding it for a long time and suffering through downtime, higher maintenance expense, higher fuel expense, and shifting it to capitalize on the value of the vehicle at the right time when it's still worth something. The town has a huge advantage when it comes to the acquisition of vehicles. The government buy with any manufacturer out there is substantially greater than what myself or any of us could go down and buy a vehicle for brand new. Sometimes as much as $5,000 to $10,000 better than better than the a standard retail or even business fleet buy. So that buy gives you essentially free depreciation, or gives you credit towards that lost value or that depreciation within the first few years, and then selling it at the right time and capitalizing on the equity. And so one of the reasons that most local governments don't sell vehicles is because they don't have a great way to do it. You're using auctions, public surplus, and to capitalize on the value and get the true return on that vehicle becomes very labor intensive and difficult for most municipalities out there. But through our process, we're able to sell vehicles typically about 13.5% above above Black Book, which is a nationwide auction value index. So we beat this up quite a bit through the last 6 months, and Joe put together, I had put together a menu of pricing to kind of show, okay, here's some exact numbers of what we can do from a lease cost standpoint and an acquisition standpoint. I know Joe went out and looked at what can Chino Valley do if we were doing this on our own. And then we came back and we also incorporated some of the savings, like administrative savings, and Frank talked to the staff, and we got a pretty good idea of what those costs look like. And then also we added in our resale advantage of what we've sold similar vehicles at versus what the town could do on their own. And what we came up with in the end was about $38,519 to be exact in annual savings over the in-house projections. And that's leveraging the enterprise leasing mechanism or leasing tool. That's utilizing enterprise to resell vehicles at the right time. And a big part of what we do is the consultation piece. The market changes, the vehicle marketplace is always, the auto industry is always changing. What we recommend for vehicles today may be completely different in 3, 4, 5 years, because there's new technology coming out. Electric trucks are on the horizon from Ford. There's autonomous vehicles that are in development right now, and so these technology changes are really changing the way fleets in general are operating, and it gives you flexibility to be able to, and it allows you to be nimble to make those changes as well. So this was where I was pulling some of those statistics from. This was, and I apologize, it's so small here. I think you guys have a copy, but this was a.
It's not much bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So this was the fleet data that I got back in August, September. It shows you the type of vehicle, the number of each of those types, and then the average age of those vehicles, and then average miles. Right down here, 26 of 27 vehicles were over 10 years of age, and there were 7 that are 20 years old. So there was one purchase in 2015, and then there was 3 here, but you haven't removed anything yet, correct?
1 or 2.
1 or 2?
Yeah.
One got
We bought a
totaled.
couple. We had one.
Okay.
So it's changed a bit.
Okay. And then let's see here. This just shows you, this is the high level rather than the entire spreadsheet. This is kind of the summary of the analysis that Joe, Frank, and I worked on. And I don't know if you want to talk to
Well,
this a
Tim,
little bit?
Let's just take, let's just take an F-150, an
Yep.
XL F-150. And so if I went and bought it today, retail with incentives, I get it for 40, 42 maybe? Up
Yep.
more, okay?
That's about right.
So the town, if we go out and buy it, we're gonna pay maybe, let's say $34,000 for that same truck. So because of the government, we get that discount. Enterprise can get it for about $32,000. And, a little bit, they can actually, because of their bulk
Volume.
fleet purchasing, they can get a little cheaper in government. So the concept here is we just paid $32,000 for a brand new truck that has a market value the day we pull it off the lot at 40, okay? So we've already saved $8,000. But then we drive it for 3 or 4 years, have 35,000, 36,000 miles, whatever on it. And it's
21,
Yeah, or 21.
because we've seen what the average miles per year was.
Yeah. So now that truck, 3 years or 4 years later, is still worth like $26,000, and or maybe even more when you resell it. So basically, you're looking at the difference of cost of about $6,000 to have a new vehicle for 3 or 4 years, and that's your concept. You're basically saying that. And if we hold it on for another year or two, that value is going to drop because the used car market is, your used car market is, like you said, 2 to 6 years
It's a
old.
window.
But 2 to 5 years is better. So before we take that big last dip in depreciation, we take the equity and we resell it, and then we have that money to put on, basically to buy down the next field, the next thing. So as you go through time, you're just, if you do this 2 or 3 cycles, 15 years out, your net cost for having a newer vehicles is a lot less than just buying one and letting it
Drive it
depreciate
till it's dead.
till it's dead.
And that's what I was trying very poorly to say.
And it's really because in that first 3 years, you really have no maintenance, except for oil changes and windshield wipers. Everything's under warranty. Yeah, but it's under warranty, you get your 3-year warranty. So it's once you get past that you could have the risk of a transmission or something like that. So
Intake manifold.
What?
Our 2007 trucks, we've replaced 4 intake manifolds
Yeah.
in the past year and a
Because the
half.
guys are hot rodding the shit out of them, and you need to talk to them about that. Is it question time?
Sure.
Okay.
Are you done?
Yeah, this was essentially the last couple slides. There's a case study and then just current people that we're working with here.
And
Saving any seals or anything?
No.
Can you
That's
go
it.
back to
There you
the,
go. You
That
can
was in the
email
fir-
me.
That was
or-
in the first slide.
can you go back to the one you just left?
Yeah.
3 back? And that would be 4 slides total, which I won't argue. There you
This one
go.
right here.
So, you're saying that if we buy 27 units, it's gonna cost us $178,000, right?
That would be if you were doing it internally.
Us guys,
Yeah.
okay? And then, say we go on 4 years, right?
5 years.
Okay, 5 years. At the end of 5 years, we have 27 vehicles. Yours, we're saving 38,000, but at the end of the 5 years, we have 0 vehicles.
You would still have all rights of ownership. And
I'm just saying,
you would,
though,
they're your vehicles. So it's
for your
it's-
savings to be at 38,000, though, we would be 0 vehicles.
We would still own
you would
vehicles.
still
No, because he's saying the
We lease them,
resale.
but we retain the ownership at the end of the lease. 5 years.
So the 38,000 includes the resale advantage, correct? You're correct. So we were calculating in 13.5% of resale advantage in the savings number, correct? What you still have all rights of ownership. We're not picking the vehicles up and leaving you with no vehicles. You retain the equity, so that 13.5% resale advantage at that point is 13.5% that's coming back to the town of Chino Valley. the type of lease that we're doing, it's an open-ended equity lease. You retain all rights of ownership. There's no mileage penalties, no wear and tear penalties. Essentially, at the end, there is a book value that is what's helping you to have a lower payment and stretch your budget dollars. But if, in the case of the pickup truck that we ran for 3 years, at the end of 3 years, that truck is worth, I think you said 26. It's going to be on the books for a number lower than that at that point, probably in the neighborhood of about $12,000 to $13,000. So the $13,000 difference between what it's worth in the wholesale in the marketplace and on the books, that $13,000 comes back to Chino Valley, and you can use that to pay down the replacement vehicle. So you're going to get a new vehicle when this one is sold, and you take $13,000 of equity and you buy down essentially the starting point, and you get an even smaller payment on that next vehicle, and you're building equity consistently.
And this happens when the vehicle sells,
Correct.
and you guys sell it.
We sell it. We sell it on your behalf. It's
Right,
essentially like a
right.
consignment type sale.
And your group is incentivized to get the maximum amount of money.
Correct. So we call it enterprise remarketing. They sell all of the rental vehicles, and then all of our fleet management client vehicles. So we have 270 clients here in Arizona, businesses and local government, and we have about 12,000 vehicles under management in Arizona. And so every 3 to 5 years, we're cycling those vehicles and we're selling them for our clients. They're incentivized by how much they're selling above that Black Book index. Yes.
And then, if I'm understanding this, let's say 27 vehicles.
Mhm.
Ultimately, we would end up with every year, we would get 5-ish over a 5-year period. So you've got a constant flow, or you let them all ride 27 vehicles till the end of the pipe.
You can, we've talked a little bit about how do you step into this, and it's very flexible. There's no long-term
No set.
commitment or anything like that, but, to realize the most savings, because the fleet, for the most part, is so old, you would want to replace them a little bit quicker in the beginning, but, some
Once you
clients
develop
choose to cycle it in evenly over a 3 to 5 year period, some do it quicker. So I think that's part of the direction we're looking for.
Great.
So let's go back to the thing being worth $26,000 at the end of the 5 years.
Right.
So, and you said there's no penalty for, what did you say, wear and tear?
No, you have no mileage. So most
No
people think
mileage.
of leasing, and they think of the retail type lease that you get, and you're only allowed 15,000 miles, and if it's damage larger than the size of a quarter, you're paying the
And we don't have
dealer,
that.
the lessor.
Right, and we don't
No,
have that.
You don't have any of
And
that.
then, and you're taking that and we're getting from you, because you take it and sell it, we're getting $26,000 credit back?
You'd be getting the difference between what it sells for and the residual book value.
Okay, so on a
At the time.
5-year lease, does the residual book value go to zero?
It depends on what you want to do. So generally speaking, we're leaving about a 20% residual.
Okay.
Some clients want to take it to zero, because if you take it to zero, you're just essentially overpaying and trying to get that money back.
Okay.
If you leave a residual value, then whatever that 20% value is, was money that was never locked up in the glove box of that vehicle.
But so the $26,000, that's where I'm trying to get a
Mhm.
handle on this. What does that mean? Because you're gonna take it and sell it, and we get credit for what you sell it for.
Correct.
And we don't know what that's gonna be until you sell it.
Okay, so
We're
So-
estimating values based on, we're really good at selling vehicles, and there's a lot of data that we have, and so we are constantly forecasting, okay, we think this truck, based on the market today, it's worth this.
Right.
And so that's what we're utilizing when we,
So how
when
can we
gave you
say,
this.
how can we say that there's no mileage penalty and no damage penalty when you're selling it for whatever you get it for? If I've got 10 dents smaller
Mm-hmm. Sure.
than a quarter, the person buying it isn't gonna give me as much money for it.
Yes.
So there still is a penalty if the guys have drilled holes in it
We
and
just
put
don't
a
have-
pipe rack on it.
We don't have to pay the leasing company the penalty.
It just, it's no different than
No,
if
you're
you
right. I
owned
agree
it.
exactly with Mike.
Okay.
So,
Well,
the
Yes,
residual
it's
is the
costing you money.
$32,000.
You're not gonna get $23,000 for it.
It's not a
It's gonna
contract
come
penalty.
from there
Yeah.
down.
There's
Okay.
real world repercussions,
Yeah.
but there's not a contract penalty
Gotcha.
like you
Yeah.
have from a leasing company.
Right.
So the residual on that truck
Market
would be
forces still
$6,500. So anything over that $6,500 that we sold the vehicle for at the end of that 5 years, or maybe at 4 if, before the market drops, then we get that money back, and then we can put that down on the next vehicle we buy.
Wait
And
a
so
minute.
theoretically, and after 3 or 4 of these cycles, you could almost be getting a free vehicle if you keep rolling equity,
So
right?
we
Right.
need to back up just a little bit here.
Okay,
6,500, what's 6,500?
okay, so that's 20% of the purchase price. So
Okay.
their lease payment is 80% of the purchase price over that 5 years.
It's got a
So we're
balloon.
paying them back 80%.
80% of the vehicle over 5 years.
Okay, so that means the vehicle's actually paid down to only owing
Only
$6,500?
$6,500 essentially
Okay.
at the
Still
end
a
of the lease.
principal.
So then they
Principal.
sell the truck for, just for numbers sakes, not for dents and the drills. They sell the truck for 2,600, you said?
Or let's say they sell for
26,000.
20,000, just 20,000.
Okay,
We would get the 13,500.
that's what we get back.
We'd get that back.
To put down
To
against the
put
next
down
one.
against the next one we buy for 32,000.
So
You
we
do it 3
still,
times, we could,
no. We still paid. We paid down to 6,500, so we paid, make it easy math, so we paid down to 7,000.
yeah.
So when we paid 32 for it, so we paid
25,000.
25,000,
Mhm,
and we got 13 back,
Mhm.
right?
mhm,
Mhm.
So we're at $12,000 out of pocket,
mhm.
5 years.
right?
But if we look
Well,
at our ongoing.
Wait. We're 12,000 out of pocket.
Right. Over
So,
that
and then we
5
got
years.
13,000. No, we already got that back. We're still 12,000 out of
It costs
pocket
us, it
for
costs
the
us
5 years.
Mhm.
So it costs us roughly 12,
$1,000
A
to own
year.
it for 5 years.
no,
Right.
12,000 a year.
No, no.
1,200 a year, excuse me, 1,200 a year.
No.
About
No.
2,400.
Actually,
Yeah.
you take the 178, 860, 836 and divide 27 into that.
Quick, Jack, what is that?
6,600
Yeah.
Yeah.
is
So-
what that is.
So our recommendation on, my
Okay?
recommendation on
So
it,
6,600 in 5 years is $33,000. So if you keep it for 5 years, you've paid for it, but you really aren't gonna get that. You're not gonna get that, because they need to make money too. So,
So, when you, let me make sure I understand what you're saying there. So you paid 33,000, you own that vehicle at that point. If it's paid down to 0, it's Chino Valley's. And then if you want us to sell it, we'll sell it for you on your behalf, and whatever we sell it for comes back to you. You have the option at that point to say, hey, you know what, Enterprise, no thanks, we don't want you to sell it, we're gonna sell it. And so you can sell it. And whatever you get for it is your money. So it's no different than owning a vehicle. The difference is, instead of just stroking a check for $33,000 in year 1, and then running it for 5 years and trying to sell it at
is
that point
that
and
the
get it
price,
back.
is that the price of the vehicle?
Well, these are all hypothetical numbers, right?
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
right now. But if you were to do that versus, essentially lease it for that time, you're just paying it down over that 5-year period. So you have your monthly payment. So it's a finance to a residual amount versus paying it down to 0.
And so that
our
when-
cash flow is less per year.
Yeah.
When we're making you payments, when we're making you payments on that, unlike paying it to a bank, there's no interest.
So there is an interest cost that's built into the lease payment.
Okay.
And that's what we are, I think are utilizing would be the Sourcewell contract, which is a national cooperative, so we're utilizing that pricing structure. And, you know, essentially, if you were to get into lease payments and paying interest versus just paying cash and, you know, not, you know, that present value.
So
of
after
still
you,
cash
if
payments.
it's a $33,000 vehicle and you go and pay your $6,600 a year for 5 years, you have then paid in, is it paid for? Is your balance zero?
Well, we can determine that, but typically you still owe that 20% residual at the end of that 5 years. So you'll still owe that 60.
You can pay more and pay it down to zero,
can
or you
pay
can
it down
pay
to
the
zero.
recommended amount and end
Right.
up with the 20%.
Can I just say, this is
Yeah.
not based off $33,000, these are all the different vehicles, so they're different prices.
Yeah, we
No,
just
he
want
was
to
just
actually
using
use
the
one
okay,
as an
150,
example.
the
Yeah,
Ford
just so you
150
understand
for
how
example.
that
Well,
works.
he was dividing this by the number of vehicles,
Yes.
but it's not based off of, if it's an average, that's fine, but there's vans in there's trucks in there's
SUVs.
SUVs that are.
That would then be the average.
Okay, so you're okay with.
Yeah, the one thing we
Okay.
haven't brought up is they will also outfit like utility trucks, put the utility beds on them, and do all those. So it's not just passenger cars and F-150s, it's the fleet vehicles.
Yeah,
They-
and there's
they can
utili-
outfit any
the
of those type of
utility
vehicles.
trucks.
Yeah. So,
The-
But nothing's for free.
well, no, it's not for free.
Yeah.
But it
So
was
whether
less
we,
than we're
whether they
paying.
put on the headache rack or we do, it's still,
We're gonna pay for it.
We're paying for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, there's no doubt about
Yeah,
Okay,
what's
and then
this-
we're, and then we're financing it.
but we finance anyway.
Right.
No, and that's, you weren't here for this, and we went
Yeah.
through this over the police department.
Yeah.
And if we would do exactly like we said before, that actually is the best,
Because, yeah,
the
we
most
say,
financially sound way to purchase vehicles, was to get ahead of it ourselves.
Yeah.
You remember this?
and
on
to
the- on
actually pay
police cars?
cash for one or two per year. And that's exactly, this budget year is actually what we've budgeted to do, is to do 2 vehicles.
Okay, so how is this better than what we have already discussed as a council?
Well, it gets the vehicles, we get them quicker, we replace our fleet faster, because now we're just gonna be replacing 1, maybe 2 of our, this is
We get
non-police
it faster.
vehicles. So we'll get our fleet newer, quicker.
The American
We're-
way.
And understand, I'm not recommending, we're not, Frank and I don't think, we're not recommending doing all 27 vehicles. I think it would be it would be political suicide for the council to all of a sudden 27 new vehicles show up.
Right.
I'm thinking there
No, it
are.
would be suicide for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't take that we're trying to we're recommending. We just want to talk about the concept. I would recommend, and I don't know if this actually would work for every department and every vehicle in every department. We need to look at that also. But maybe starting off with 3 or 5 vehicles 1 year and doing the lease program.
Would you personally do this?
Well, Councilman.
No, you wouldn't.
I pay cash for my vehicles, so,
Exactly.
because I don't pay interest.
And that was the conversation that the council had a year and a half ago, was getting in that situation.
My
Well-
hope,
But how about your trucks? Are you doing a similar lease type for any of those?
If my trucks only put 7,000 miles a year on them,
Right.
I would be out of business in a month.
But
So,
you told me one time you were using some sort of lease mechanism.
I do, because the reason I use a lease deal
Okay.
is because I don't pay sales tax when I purchase them that way.
Okay.
I
It's
also
over
get,
12,001 GVWR.
what's that?
They're over 12,000
Yeah.
GVWR,
Yeah.
and you don't pay the
Yeah.
use tax.
So
Yeah.
you get that. advantage.
Exactly.
Okay.
I also get warranty, factory warranty, by utilizing that again.
Okay.
And I tell you, and if everybody gamed the system the way I do, they would do away with that, you know.
Okay.
There's not too many people
Jack,
finance
you had
today.
your hand up and screaming over there.
no, I'm just trying to do some math over here.
Okay, you do your math while I ask a question.
Okay.
No, I'm ready to go.
I'll go then.
Okay, my point is, with 27 vehicles, doing the average on the vehicles,
Okay.
the total, it's $6,600 or 66,000 per vehicle, right? If you take the savings, no,
6,600 per year.
excuse me, 600 per year. If we do the savings, it's $1,426 per vehicle per year, right?
That savings is per year, right?
Yes, that's
Per year.
annual saving. Those are all annual numbers.
Okay, got it. I'm with you. You with me
Oh,
now?
you're saying per vehicle per year.
Per vehicle
vehicle
per
per
year,
year.
$1,400.
38,000 divided by
Right.
27.
But at the end of the year, we're selling it to make that $38,000 profit.
Yes,
Right,
Over here, we're owning the vehicle.
right.
but you don't have a new vehicle. You still have an older vehicle. And according to that
Did
one.
you miss the math earlier?
I didn't miss any math.
So to be clear, the resale savings, you're not recognizing that annually. We're showing it annually here, but that's recognized at the end of 5 years.
I
And
understand.
then
Okay.
we just divided it back out to show you, okay, with this resale at the end of the term, it would have been a net savings effect of 38,000. But year one, just the vehicle payments, 22,392. That's the difference between what Joe found, Joe researched and found out Chino Valley could do on their own versus what I know we can do on those.
Okay, so that's
27.
less than $1,000 a
If we
vehicle
finance
average.
vehicles.
Correct,
So we-
savings annually.
We compare it to
So
lease
over-
purchasing like we've been doing the vehicles, or we just take out an $800,000 line and buy them versus his scenario of leasing. So if we have to lease, so the answer is if we have to finance the acquisition of our vehicles, this is the better way to go.
I agree.
And the reason is because one, they get the vehicle cheaper up front, so we save 5%, 10%. And the interest rates are gonna be very comparable because Sourcewell is they're the co-op purchasing provider, so they've negotiated that down for us, so we get a good deal there too. So as far as if we decide to acquire vehicles with interest, essentially it's debt, this is the best method to go.
The savings really come out of the consultation piece that Enterprise brings to the table. So with the lease purchase that you guys have done in the past, or, going out and just paying cash, those vendors are happy to take your money, and the next time you call them, they're happy to take your money again. With Enterprise, we take it becomes a partnership. We take an active management role, working with Frank, working with Joe, looking at the fleet year over year. We're bringing fleet data analysis on what's the best time to cycle these vehicles. Hey, here's what's happening in the resale market right now. Trucks are selling for, half-ton trucks are selling for an amazing amount of money right now because gas is still relatively low and Americans want to drive trucks. And so when you buy a truck for $8,000 to $10,000 less than what the general public can, and you drive it for a few years, and you sell it for we have cases where clients are selling them for what they bought them for, if not a little bit more, in some cases. But you have that advantage, and you have that consultation piece of what Enterprise does on an ongoing basis. And so, you hinted at, hey, nothing's for free. Where we make our money is when you acquire the vehicle, just like a dealership would make money. And then we do make money on the funding. But we have flexibility there. We can take it down to a lease purchase where there's no residual. You have the flexibility to pay cash for that vehicle, or mirror a cash buy on that vehicle by putting money down. So you could say, you know what, we have extra funding this year. Instead of financing the entire amount, we want to put 50% down, and we only want to finance half of it. So there's a lot of flexibility in what we do, and really what we're looking for is the opportunity to build a partnership over time. There's no length of term commitments. There's no volume commitments on how many vehicles you have to do. You could do, like Joe said, start with a pilot of 5 vehicles, and then, in a year it's not working, kick us out the door if we're not living up to the expectations that we lay
Okay,
out here.
final
So-
questions.
Well, I think I already answered my own question because this is just like purchasing instead of leasing. So my question was, okay, so we go out and we say, we're gonna buy 4 of these vehicles this year or lease from you. And 18 months down the road, these vehicles prove out to be lemons. Like they said our Chargers were, that we got, they were nothing but a hole. that you
Right.
just kept dumping money
Still got
into.
two.
Do we have any protection through you, or is it, I mean, we're just on our own, you'll take them and sell them anytime,
So you-
whatever you get for them?
Right, so
Is- that's where
there
we're
are
gonna
some
be.
options there that we've discussed and we haven't really talked about, but, you know, obviously you have the manufacturer warranty. Enterprise has a maintenance program that you can outsource maintenance on some vehicles or no vehicles. You can, you know, continue to do it in-house, but that maintenance program provides coverage over and above the warranty, gives you all routine services, so maybe kind of like what you're getting out of your truck leases. We can build in a maintenance program. You know, we have data and we know that it's what it costs to maintain an F-150 over 5 years doing 7,500 miles a year. And I can tell you it's very low compared to what most businesses and governments can do on their own. So it's a way to inject and utilize the local shops and you know, benefit the economy from that standpoint. And then, you know, it gives you that extra protection. So if there is a lemon, we're gonna help you out in those situations. We obviously buy a lot of vehicles from all the manufacturers, and, you know, if it is a true lemon situation, we do go to bat for our clients on those occasions.
And you buy enough that you have some clout.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Anything else before we move on?
Move on.
And I was
Thank you,
just,
Tim.
oh, sorry, could I just summarize my
No.
point of view?
Yeah, go ahead.
Where I was coming from this, from a public works point of view, is we may have lost sight of this, is I was looking at, we buy trucks, and I don't wanna get into the interest right now, but buy trucks at a certain price, we hold them for 10 years or more, and sell them for about $1,500. And with something like this, if you sell them at 5 years, say you get them for $12,000 over 5 years, you do that twice, that's $24,000. How much do you buy a truck for new? Is about $30,000, $32,000.
Yeah.
So we're making $6,000 over the system we're using now, is where I looked at
Per
it
vehicle.
by turning them. Why is that no?
I don't agree.
Because
I
you're
don't
not,
either.
no, well, because
You don't
you're
have
not
a truck.
selling them in 5 years.
But you sell the truck in 10 years anyway.
Yeah,
Or we're sitting on them for 20.
yeah. So Mayor Council, so let us,
We need to go over this more with paper and a
yeah,
board.
let us give
And,
you a little more.
because either I'm missing it or you're missing what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing that savings is when you sell your truck and you have nothing at the end.
Okay,
But you-
Joe, you need to
Okay.
put something together.
That doesn't have the number, if you're selling the complete vehicle, that number would be astronomically larger.
Okay, I'm just
That's
saying,
not taking into the resale.
and
It's
that's
just
what I'm
taking
saying,
in
I need more,
the resale advantage.
I need more
Yeah.
information and more
Sure.
on paper so that I can understand, because I'm missing it,
so,
or you're missing what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry, you're the councilor.
No, you go ahead.
I apologize for interrupting. So, sit next to Jack, this is great.
You know, I
So-
sit next to him up here, I understand.
I understand, yeah. So what if, let us come back with maybe recommending 4 to 5 vehicles in the program and see how that pencils out. We'll break out the individual vehicles and let's just show you that and see. Where's
I
no
want to see
emergency.
what vehicles we have and
Yeah,
what vehicles you think that we need to,
okay,
because I've had some issue with some other vehicles, oh, we need to upgrade this. So, yeah, it just doesn't.
yeah.
Well, that was
My
another
perspective-
point of view I had here, is because we don't necessarily have that expertise. Enterprise does. So that was another point I was.
All right,
Okay.
but we just
Joe,
wanted to
we'll
introduce
put
the
a
concept.
Presentation together, we'll discuss this further.
Yeah.
Tim,
All right.
thank you very much.
It's-
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members.
Thanks,
thank
Tim.
Thank you.
Tim. Okay, let's go on to item 4, review and discussion regarding a proposal to develop land use engineering and development standards. Mr. Cook,
No.
That's me.
is
Can
that
we,
you?
I would
Mr.
ask that we
Cook.
continue that item to the next study session.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. I make a motion, we adjourn.
We're out of here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go.